Good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, I will be breaking down the severe weather outbreak from the Ohio Valley to the Gulf Coast today into tonight, and then the Midwest snowstorm bringing significant snow accumulations. I'll break down what to expect there, and a cross-country winter storm looming across next week with more rain, snow, and storms throughout the country. If you guys are not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. I cover all of North America, including Canada, the United States, the tropics, and everything in between. So do me a favor and hit the subscribe button down below, guys. We're almost to 22,000 subscribers, so definitely appreciate it. Looking back to yesterday, we did see lots of severe weather, especially across southern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, and eastern portions of Kansas. We had 11 wind reports with 18 hail reports, one of those being significant, for a total of 29 severe weather reports. The good news is we did not see any tornado reports as of yet from yesterday's event, so that is some good news. But as we go through today, that severe weather threat will push its way farther to the east across the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the central Gulf Coast states. Meanwhile, up here, we do have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings from the Central Plains all the way through the Great Lakes and New England, where we are anticipating significant snowfall accumulations through Saturday. So looking at the snapshot of the system through today, we have the deformation snow band up here across central Great Lakes, back across the Midwest, but that warm sector will be moving farther north towards the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys today, and that is going to be providing the fuel for severe weather later on today. Again, if you guys are not yet liking this video, press the like button down below. It's the thumbs up button down below the video. Definitely would appreciate that. It helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people across YouTube, so I definitely appreciate it. But yes, looking at today, we do have a fairly significant severe weather outbreak looming, especially from midday onward across the Ohio Valley, down through the Tennessee Valley and the central Gulf Coast states. We have an enhanced risk, a level 3 of 5, for severe weather from southern Ohio, southeastern Indiana through central portions of Kentucky, middle Tennessee, including the Nashville area, getting all the way south towards eastern Mississippi, west central Alabama. This does include the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area up toward Huntsville, and portions of Jackson, Mississippi as well. And that severe weather threat moves farther north. We even have a marginal risk all the way up to near the Toronto area, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York. So this is a far-reaching event, but we do have the tornado threat pretty significant down here across southern Tennessee, eastern Mississippi, into west central Alabama. That's that 10% hatched area for significant tornadoes of EF2 or stronger type of tornadoes likely across those areas. But even farther north, we have the 2 to 5% shading for tornadoes as far north as southern Ohio and southern Indiana, as well as Kentucky here. That severe weather threat does continue with the damaging wind threat all the way up to the eastern Great Lakes here to the Gulf Coast with the damaging wind threat as well, and a lower end threat for hail across the central Gulf Coast states later on today. So breaking down the timing for these storms, around the noon time frame, you could be watching out for some damaging thunderstorms here from the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, all the way southward through Mississippi here and Louisiana around the noon time frame. Meanwhile, the snowfall will be flying in earnest up here across northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and the western portions of Michigan, and all the way back toward the Des Moines region in Iowa, with several inches of accumulation likely there. That will be lifting up across southern Ontario and Quebec and much of Michigan through this evening. But again, that severe weather threat will remain intact through mid-evening around 9 o'clock. And then finally, by the time we get into 6 a.m. on Friday, we'll turn off the severe weather threat. We'll be left with just some heavier rainfall and a few scattered thunderstorms, with the heavy snow farther to the north across northern Maine, southern Vermont, and southern Ontario and Quebec, Canada, rather, as we get into 6 a.m. on Friday. that will continue to press its way farther to the east by the time we get into 6 p.m. on Friday evening. So looking at the total rainfall accumulation from now through Saturday, we're talking some heavy rainfall accumulations here from the Ohio Valley southward to the central Gulf Coast. We are seeing 1 to 3 inches plus of rainfall, especially centered on middle eastern Tennessee and southeastern Kentucky, and then on up into West Virginia during this time frame. And looking at that, we do have a threat for flash flooding today into tomorrow here. That slight risk for flash flooding does encompass eastern portions of Kentucky, Western Virginia, getting here into portions of the Western Carolinas, down into northern Georgia, north central Alabama, and much of middle and eastern portions of Tennessee. But on the cold side of the system, it's a different story. We have lots of snowfall on the northern side of this system with that deformation snow band setting up. The cold air wrapping around the back side of this system does mean we're going to see some significant snowfall accumulations from the Midwest through the central Great Lakes and parts of northern New England through Saturday. Looking at additional snowfall accumulations here from what we've already seen, anywhere from about 4 to 7 inches of snow in a narrow zone here from northwestern Missouri, south central Iowa, getting into eastern Iowa, and far northern Illinois up near the Highway 20 corridor from Dubuque to Rockford, Illinois to Waukegan, Illinois, and then on up here toward Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Racine, Wisconsin, a nice swath of snow there. That will stretch across north central Michigan going through early on Friday. And then Friday into Saturday, this will lift up across portions of northern Maine and interior New England, where we could have a dusting of snow in upstate New York, getting into northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire. But northern Maine will be the big winners with this, with over 6 inches of snow going through that Saturday time frame. We also are concerned about icing here, at least some light icing across central Illinois, back into northern Missouri here, and then southern portions of Michigan. So from near the Detroit area, back through portions of the Chicago metro area, back towards Peoria, Illinois, we might have to be watching out for at least a glaze of ice to up to 1/10 of an inch of ice as we head through the next 24 to 48 hours. But either way, there's going to be travel impacts here going through that early weekend time frame on Saturday. We do have to watch out, especially today and tomorrow, for those minor and moderate travel inconveniences from the Central Plains on up into the Western Great Lakes, and even still those minor travel inconveniences into portions of Michigan and interior New England going through early on this weekend. But by the time we get to this weekend, it is looking extremely quiet. When is the last time we have seen a weather map that looks this quiet? It's been quite some time, and do enjoy it because we are reloading the atmosphere this weekend. We got the high pressure system centered across the southeast, lots of sunshine that continues into Sunday. And looking at the temperatures this weekend, we're going to be rebounding our temperatures into the 30s, 40s, and 50s out here across the eastern 2/3 of the country on Saturday. And then we'll be warming up even more so into Sunday, February 19th. 70s will return down here into the Red River, into southern Oklahoma, much of Texas, and the central Gulf Coast states. 50s and 60s farther to the north. So we'll start to melt away some of that snowpack that we are laying down today across the Midwest and the Great Lakes and even interior New England as we go into later on this weekend. But that pattern does reload going into next week from the February 21st through the 25th time frame. That southeast ridge is still there with the warmer than normal temperatures centered on the southeast and parts of the Ohio Valley at times. But we're going to see a fairly significant trough swinging down from Canada into the Pacific Northwest and the northern plains going into the middle of next week. That will be providing us with below normal temperatures then. And look at how powerful this zonal flow will be. This jet streak is very intense for the middle of February, and this is going into Tuesday, February 21st. We are seeing an incredibly fast area of jets of winds in the jet stream here, and that will continue in a big way as we get into late next week on Thursday the 23rd with a fairly significant positively tilted trough digging in across the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest late next week. And what this means for our temperatures here first will be a temperature battle zone setting up. We'll have colder than normal temperatures to the north and northwest, and then well above average temperatures across the south and southeast here. 70s across the central Gulf Coast states. We might be taking a run close to 80 80 degrees down here into the DFW Metroplex, Shreveport, getting over toward Jackson, Mississippi on Tuesday. Meanwhile, northward into the Dakotas, northern Minnesota, back into Montana, and all the southern portions of Canada will be at or below zero for the most part going into Tuesday. That will continue into Wednesday here. We'll start to dampen the ridge a little bit farther southeast on Wednesday, and then that will start to retreat farther north at times on Thursday. Just look at that temperature gradient. By the time we get into Thursday, February 23rd, we're in the mid 60s here in central Oklahoma, but just a state away, we're below freezing. So this is a pretty impressive temperature gradient setting up late next week. And what this means is as this trough moves in, we're going to see above normal precipitation from the Pacific Northwest across the northern United States and the Northeast. And most of this will be falling as snow because it'll be colder to the north and warmer to the south. So looking at this here on Tuesday, we got our first piece of energy moving in across the northern plains and the Pacific Northwest. That will quickly zip across the northeast here into portions of the eastern Great Lakes, getting in towards the middle of the week, maybe a couple of inches of snow from the first system. But the second system will be much deeper and stronger across the central Rockies. That will dig in across the northern plains on Wednesday. We could have some more stronger thunderstorms developing down here into east central Texas, into the Red River, into southern Oklahoma on Wednesday. We'll have to watch out for severe weather there. The next system will zip across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, and then moving in now to the northeast on Thursday the 23rd with maybe a heavier snowstorm there and even an ice storm possibly developing, where those warmer air starts to move over shallow cold air as we get towards late next week. But looking first at the first glance of our snowfall potential getting through next week, the European forecast model is farther north across portions of the Dakotas, Nebraska here through Minnesota, Iowa, getting through Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and then stretching across the Great Lakes into portions of New York State and maybe getting in towards the I-95 corridor. The GFS is significantly farther north and more bullish on the snowfall totals. That has it up there toward the Twin Cities, northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then back into the eastern Dakotas with well over 6 inches of snow on this model. But if we look at the ensembles here, and this is what we like to look at in the long range here, looking towards next week, this does paint a good picture. I am liking the GEFS ensemble and also the Canadian ensemble guidance to this. It does place that snow band exactly where I think what will happen across the upper Midwest here, the Great Lakes and New England. And I do think the heaviest of the snow will probably fall here across South Dakota, southern Minnesota, getting into northeastern Nebraska, central Iowa, and then extending farther east towards southern Wisconsin and far northern Illinois as we get towards the middle and late portion of next week. So looking at the potential storm track at a glance as well through next week from the 21st through the 25th timeframe, that low will be moving out of the Pacific Northwest through the middle of the country, right along that temperature gradient here, where we go from warmer conditions to the south to really cold up to the north. And that really cold air will support heavy snow and potentially another major snowstorm across the northern United States from the upper Midwest through the Great Lakes into portions of New England, potentially the I-95 corridor. And then farther south will be the stormy weather with heavy rain and possibly severe weather yet again in those same areas from the southern plains, the Arklatex and the Dixie Alley region, all the way eastward towards portions of the southeast, getting through late next week. And looking at this with the Climate Prediction Center's forecast, they do forecast heavy snow next week on the 23rd, 24th timeframe, and also on the 26th through the 28th of February up across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and much of New England, including that I-95 corridor from New York City to Boston as we head towards the early portion of March. So looking to recap my weather forecast, a severe weather outbreak is likely today across the Ohio Valley to the Gulf Coast. Do watch out for significant long-track tornadoes, damaging winds, large hail, heavy rain, and lightning, and then Midwest snowstorm with significant snowfall accumulations, a good swath of 4 to 7 inches of snow from the central plains all the way up through the central Great Lakes. and southeastern Canada going through early this weekend. Then a cross-country winter storm looming into next week with more rain, snow, and storms and possibly severe weather across the south yet again. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Thursday, everybody, a great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.